Okay. Um, I can screen share. I can. What I'm gonna do is close this. Okay. Wait, do I have 5 people watching? I apparently do. Wait, can you guys hear me? Um, oh, I have no one now. Okay. Hello, I am seeing someone. Do you hear me, perchance? Or do you not hear anything? Okay, so I might have the casual people chiming in. That's all right. I'm gonna wait a little bit and then I'm gonna start the presentation. Um, yes, I can share the screen like this. Create a video. Okay. Um, hello. Do say hi in the chat if you're here. It feels a little bit like I'm talking to myself or like talking to ghosts at this point. And it's the first time I'm using the live feature on YouTube, so I am a little bit discombobulated. Is that the word? Anyways, I just hope you guys have a good enough audio. I did not test before for this, so I have no idea if it's even any good. Anyways, so I'm gonna wait around a little bit. I think I'm gonna start at, well, 5. It's in 1 minute. So yes, for people who are watching the replay when I eventually put it up, I do sound a little bit like a crazy person at the moment because there's no one else actually watching, and actually that might end up being the entire, video. So that's gonna be a bit awkward if I am completely honest, but you know what? That's fine with me. Okay, well, it is 35. I don't know if I'm moving too quickly, but I think I might as well just start. Though it has been only 3 minutes 30 since I've gone live, so I might wait a little bit more. I should actually send the link to like the live just so that people are aware. Yeah, I'm gonna do that for quite quickly. I'm gonna put it in the pinned comments. Okay, so let's go here. By the way, I am currently like writing something, so I do not see if there's anyone in the chat at the moment. Yep, that is how it works. Okay, well, that's I should probably pin this too. Actually, I put it here, so let me pin it. Anyways, well, Might as well start. Hopefully, I will have people join in and chime in sometime during the live. If I don't, this presentation is going to be a lot quicker than anticipated, but I mean, that's fine. I am talkative enough to talk to myself, so that's not going to be an issue. And hopefully, it's going to be entertaining enough for you guys who are watching the replays later, if there is anyone that actually watched the replays. By the way, if you do end up watching the live after it went live, I would appreciate it if you dropped a comment to say that you ended up watching it. That would be really nice to know. And also, do tell me if there is anything that was useful that you learned during this workshop. And yeah, okay, so let me get started. Okay, so I'm gonna share this. Okay, so throughout the entire thing, I believe that you're not going to be seeing my face. You're only going to see what I am currently presenting. So let me see. I'm actually going to connect. Okay. I'm going to connect to my phone and I'm going to mute my phone just so I have a visual. Oh, actually, you can see my face. I didn't know it was going to do that. That's interesting. Right. So, okay, let's get to it. Mm, present. Okay. So even though right now I'm talking to an empty room, hopefully I will be talking to people who will watch the replay at some point. Today we are going to talk about the protector archetype. That's how I call it in the shadow work workshop. So what I call the protector archetype is a way to give a name to people who struggle to relax and let go of control, people who want to be emotionally vulnerable and open but don't know how, and people who always have their guard up, people who stood up for others but had no one stand up for them. And I'm talking about all of that, of course, how to understand where all of this came from to be able to release it. And of course, I'm going to be using characters to explain how all of this works. As you know, this is very much what I do on my channel. So, okay, here we go. Well, as you know, I like talking about stories on my channel, so it's not gonna be a surprise that I call this the story instead of the menu or the summary. We are going to have 7 different times throughout this workshop. Some are going to be more interactive than others, even though, again, as I said, it's quite funny at the moment since no one is here but myself. Um, but I mean, you never know. So, we are going to start this workshop today by talking about the role. So, what I call by the role are all of the roles that we play, and some of them are ones that we consciously take on for a multitude of reasons, some that we end up embodying without really knowing that we do it. But it is a universal thing, everyone does it to some extent. So I want to talk about the more psychological aspect of it all so that we can start on the same, how should I say this, with the same background knowledge, let's say. Then we are going to talk about the cost. So the cost of playing out a role. What are the negative consequences to taking on a role, especially when it is one that you're unaware of, uh, essentially. I hope like my is not going to be too distracting throughout this workshop. Do tell me if it is. It has. Sorry, I just did it again. It has been some time since I have spoken publicly. I mean, it's a weird state to say that I'm speaking publicly right now, but yeah, I have gone out of practice a little bit. Right after that, I'm going to talk about my path, which is more so my story and how I fit into this presentation, why I'm speaking about all this, because of course it's very near and dear to my heart. It's also part of my job. So I'm going to clear up some things surrounding that. We're then going to talk about mirrors, which is basically the case study analysis using characters from fiction. So, people who have come from Instagram, from Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts might already know what, not what, who I'm going to talk about today. Of course, if you see the thumbnail to this live, you also know who I am talking about. So, Elijah Michelson, we've got Asa Scarlett, and Prue Halliwell. We're going to talk about how they fit into the role of the protector and how they came to be into that role and what it is costing them. So it's like a real life, in a way, example of what I'm talking about today. For that, we're going to talk about the roots. So this is more generally how these thoughts came to being and why they need to be let go. So this is to, let's say, zoom out a little bit instead of focusing on the characters. This is more so on like the human condition, the human mind as a whole. And likely you who is watching, and when I say likely you, I was I'm one of those people there too. You know, I have done the work, but I definitely was in that position, and there were things that I needed to work on that we're going to talk about when we get there. Second to last thing we're going to talk about is blooming, which, I love my references to do with nature and plants is very on theme. Of course, my channel name is Becoming Bamboo, so it's not too surprising that I'm going with that name. Blooming is to tell you about more so the outcome once you have worked on the root causes, the after effects, the negative consequences of being the protector. So, how to heal and what healing looks like, and why it is something that needs to be done. And I do mean need, with everyone is on their own timeline, but regardless, everyone needs to heal or to be in the process of healing. It's not a race, but it is a process that must be started for everybody. And lastly, we're going to end with a Q&A, since so far we have not been joined by anyone. I have been checking on my phone because I can't see it on my computer right now. It is going to get awkward because we might not even have a Q&A, but I mean, we'll see by then. All right, so let's get started. So, the role. You will notice that I have got the imagery of a child in a very cute onesie and the brain. So we're going to talk about how the brain, well, not necessarily the brain, how the mind works and what it has to do with roles in general. And you will have guessed it, it has to do with our very, very early life. So some of you might be aware of it, some of you might not. But when you are a child, and by you, I mean all of us really, when you're a child, you depend on your parents, your caregivers, might be other adult figures as well. And you want your caregiver, your parents, to give you attention, care, love. That's how being a child works, because if your parent does not take care of you, then that means that you are, of course, in danger. You can't survive with your parents when you are a child. So that's very important to start with. Now, some things that need to be explained. Roles are being taken by children intentionally and unintentionally. What I mean by that is, since children have to get their parents' attention so that they get taken care of, they will fill in the role that is needed or that will get the attention and time of their parents. Of course, when someone has siblings, some roles will get taken up. So whatever roles are left to fill are the ones that are going to get filled. I'm going to take the example of the perfect child. You probably know someone who is. You might be one yourself. I was one personally, even though I'm an only child. And the role of the perfect child is, I think, quite easy to understand. It's the child that does everything exactly right, exactly how adults want them to be. Now, I was talking about children filling the roles to get attention from parent or caregivers because that is how they survive. Okay. Then what happens when they don't get the care and attention? Does that mean that they won't take on a role? No. It just means that whatever role they end up filling, whatever traits and behaviors they end up creating, will not get positive feedback, but negative feedback instead. So, for example, if this is what happens in situations of neglect, if a child gets ignored by their parents, then something that ends up happening is, well, I'm going to be the perfect child because I need to be, because I need to develop all the skills to survive because no one else is going to take care of me. So, in both cases, perfect children, either formed because of positive feedback or negative feedback, are going to play the same role. It's just that the initial belief, the initial root cause is different. They will still play out in very similar ways. And it is more so in the healing process and how this behavior ends up being um, shown into the world that is going to differ. They will still struggle with more or less the same things. All right. So I forgot to actually click. Ended up just ranting and forgot the visuals. So of course, positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement are what we call wounds as well. Okay, so now let's talk about the cost of playing a role. And again, everyone plays a role at one point. Not everyone chooses to play a role. A lot of roles that we take on, and yes, we take on more than one role and take on more than one mask or, you know, that sort of stuff, and not to, find more synonyms. Sometimes it is conscious, very rarely so, and it will continue to influence and dictate your life well into adulthood, even if it was formed when you were 3. So, my question to you, and I do see one person is watching. I am hoping you're not too shy to use the chat because I've got a question for you. How much do you think is your life controlled by your conscious mind? How much of your actions, thoughts, and feelings made consciously? Would you want to take a guess? You can say no if like you don't want to like talk. But since I see that there's like one person in the chat, might as well. We might end up just the two of us during this entire presentation. So I'm gonna drink a bit of my tea. If I don't see any answers, I'll just keep going. But feel free to write something if you want to participate a little bit. It's a bit more fun when it's interactive, isn't it? So, how much do you think do we control consciously? Thoughts, feelings, actions, and behaviors. Like, think percentage-wise. How much do you think it is? Me right now, if you don't want me to say the answer, since I'm not seeing anything in the chat, I'm just gonna say it. Okay, so it's quite like a low percentage. It's 5%. So 5% of your choices, of your actions, are made consciously. I would hope that this is a shocking number to you. If you already knew it, well, it won't be as shocking. 5% is really not a lot. So, of course, if we think mathematically speaking, if 5% of our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are made consciously, that means that 95% of our thoughts, behaviors, and actions are actually made in the subconscious mind. It is really surprising, but not so much when you start really thinking about it. Now, I'm going to give you an example of like right now. I am assuming that you are wearing clothing. I mean, it's not my business to know if you are or not, but I assume you do. I am wearing clothing at the moment. Do I necessarily think about the clothing that I'm wearing right now? Not really. I need to consciously pay attention to it to really know that it's there. Same thing, if I close my eyes and then you ask me where my nose is, I know where it is. I don't have to consciously think about where my nose is, right? Same thing when you're like scratching an itch or something, like, oh, you're itching here. You don't think about it, you just do. So these are like automatic mechanisms that reside in the subconscious. It's actually a really good thing that a lot of processes are in the subconscious because imagine if you had to consciously think and act, you would forget how to walk. And for people who have done rehabilitation, I mean, I haven't myself, but I assume it's quite difficult because, again, it's something that you would have done for a long time and then you have to relearn everything. Like, that sounds horrible. Regardless, there are reasons that 95% of our processes are in the subconscious. It's for a very good reason. The issue now is when the roles you take on early on in your childhood for survival are still in the subconscious processes because something you did as a child to survive is not necessarily going to be helpful for you as an adult. I'm going to take back the example of the child whose needs were not met. And so they went into life assuming, well, no one is going to help me. No one is going to do anything for me. I need to look out after myself. I need to be perfect. Now, this was true when they were a child and they could not get what they wanted from the people around. It starts to change when you are an adult and you have agency and you have choice and you have people around you, people of your choosing, by the way. And so, if one keeps this mindset, it's going to be really difficult to form relationships in life. It's going to be really difficult to trust. So, whatever helps you survive childhood is not necessarily helpful, and usually it is really not helpful when you're an adult. So, this is when we need to l- take what's in the subconscious and bring it to the conscious mind so it can be changed. Because, again, the point is to live the life that you want and to make the choices that you want. But a lot of choices that we make are not made consciously, they are made unconsciously. For example, if you're used to people, again, not being trustworthy, you kind of have a filter in your mind of, well, like avoiding people. That doesn't mean that everyone on earth is untrustworthy, it just means that the one that you encountered were. And so you're closing yourself to everybody. But that's not a viable solution because, again, we're still a social species, humans, at the end of the day. What? Do you have any questions? If you do write them in the chat. I am going to keep going with, part three. I think I have talked long enough on part two. Okay, so let's get now to why I'm talking about all of this. If you've not been on my YouTube channel before, that's actually well, thank you actually for sticking around because then you don't really have a reason to be sticking around, do you? So thank you for being here. I am a hypnotherapist and lithotherapist, meaning that I use hypnosis to help people release emotional and psychological burdens and blockages. It can do many, many things. I will talk more about it at the end. And the reason why I even went into hypnotherapy and more recently lithotherapy is because I myself was really, really unwell throughout my childhood, not necessarily when I was this age, when I was a bit older. I think around the ages of 5, 6, up until my teenage years and very early adulthood, I felt like I had this weight, this pressure on my shoulders to do the right thing. As I mentioned, I do really relate with the protector archetype I'm talking about and the perfect child I just mentioned. And I felt like I had this responsibility to make the right choice, to know exactly what I'm doing, to pick the right path for me, to find the right job, because I refused to be unhappy. I refused to make a mistake. That's how I felt. And I was desperate to find my path. I didn't know what it was. I knew some of the things that I liked and I was passionate about, like writing, for example, and I still do really love writing. But still, I really wanted something. And this led me to do some self-reflection when I was 19, 20, I think. And so I ended up doing a lot of self-reflection, as I said, shadow work. It started with doing therapy when I realized while writing that I sounded awfully depressed. And I was like, well, maybe I'm onto something. And I really was. So I ended up seeking therapy, which then later led me to learning and training in hypnotherapy. And I have since then done a lot of inner work. It has been quite intense process, quite magical, transformative last 3 years. And I am now in a place where I am really at peace and certain with what I want to do in life and who I want to help. So I'm getting there. This is like it for now as to why I'm doing all this. I think you need a little bit of context because it's basically I'm doing this entire presentation and using characters from fiction, and I think I do need to explain why this is something that drives me so much. Okay, so let's start with our character analysis and deep dive, shall we? So the first character we're going to talk about is Prue Halliwell. Now, for those of you who are watching the replay, thank you for making it this far. I really appreciate it. The person that was in the live left. So we're at the place where we are starting the interactive part of the workshop, and I don't really have someone to bounce off of. There is no interaction to be had. So for now, we're just going to stick with good old me. Okay. Do tell me in the comments while you're like watching this if you watched Charmed growing up, if you're familiar, if you liked Prue Halliwell, what you thought about the character. I would really love to know. Anyways, for the sake of this presentation, I do need to move on. So Prue is the eldest of 4 sisters, and after their mother died and their father left, she took over running the household while still being quite young herself. She is disciplined, capable under pressure, and the most level-headed of her sisters, but also guarded, slow to trust, and not naturally comfortable being emotionally open, even with people close to her. Her sisters see her as the one who held the family together, the natural leader of the group, though they have also noted that she gave up her own childhood to do it. The questions I would ask my live audience that I'm going oh sorry, I stuttered a little bit, that I'm going to ask my rewatch audience is, why do you think Prue Halliwell fits the protector archetype I mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation, this workshop? As a reminder, the protector is someone who stood up for others but had no one stand for them, someone who struggles to relax and let go of control, someone who wants to be emotionally open but does not know how. So, in such circumstances, why do you think Prue Halliwell fits the protector? And where do you think it comes from? By the way, hello and welcome to the. Okay, I just said hello and welcome to the person who just came in and they just left. So I was a bit late on the uptake there. Yeah, do write it in the chat. Hopefully you had enough time to do so. I'm going to add a little quote from Prue. I believe she was talking to her sister Phoebe while seeing this, and it does add a little bit more depth to the questions I was asking. While I admire your confidence and your fearlessness, your utter lack of responsibility frustrates me to no end. Yeah. What do you think of that quote? What does it tell you about Prue Halliwell? I'm going to drink a bit of my tea and then I'm going to share my own analysis. Okay, so Prue clearly is someone who had to step up, someone who chose to become the protector because she had no other choice. She is someone who was abandoned by her two parents as a child. Her mother passed away, which was no choice of her own, but it still is the same wound of my parents abandoned me, and now I am left to pick up the pieces. It resulted her in being someone incredibly disciplined, incredibly in control of herself and in control of the situation and others, and someone who now has difficulty letting go of that control, has difficulty opening up, even though that is what her loved ones want and need from her. An additional layer that people who have watched the show are aware of is that Prue actually witnessed her mother drowning. I mean, for those who know Charm, they know that she was killed by a demon. But this adds an layer on top of like how much weight she had to carry, how much of her grief and her own emotions she had to put aside to take care of her sisters who were much younger. And this last quote also lets you in into the fact that Prue never allowed herself to be a child from that point forward. And she, even in adulthood, never allowed herself to be truly herself. She was always very contained because she learned to become so contained. And in some way, she also resents the fact that her sister is able to be so free because Prue herself was never free and doesn't know how to be free. So that's for Prue Halliwell. Now, our second character we're going to talk about, who also fits in the protector, is Elijah Michelson from The Vampire Diaries and the originals. Do tell me in the comments if you are familiar with the character and what you think of him, and why you think he fits the bill of the protector. This is quite a complex character and also has reasons to be the protector that are very nuanced and complex, which I find really interesting and also deeply sad at the same time. I assume, by the way, that my tea breaks are enough time for you to type, but I have no idea how long it takes. So if you need to pause, do pause. Anyways, let's get to it. By the way, the reason why I'm going like rather quickly is again, any audience interaction I'm gonna have is going to be with the replay, since I don't have anyone in the chat live with me. So let's get to Elijah. Elijah is one of several siblings in a large family, and over the years became a central studying figure amongst them, often stepping in during family conflict. He is composed and lives by a strict personal code of honor and morality, valuing doing the right thing even when it costs him, and rarely losing his temper or his self control. His family and those around him see him as endlessly loyal and dependable, the one everyone turns to in a crisis, the one whose word can be trusted above almost anyone else's. So again, we can see a lot of similarities with Prue. Someone who is very self-contained, someone who is in control, someone who people rely on, someone who had to be the strong one and continues to be the strong one for others, mainly here his family. I'm going to share the quote because I do think it is quite telling as well. This is something that he says to his younger brother Niklaus. Um, do you remember the name if you're not familiar with Vampire Diaries? Because it is important to what I'm gonna add on top of like this short resume that is here. I have forsaken every single one of my desires in the name of your ridiculous redemption. Again, there is quite a lot of projection and resentment here. In the same way that Prue wasn't allowed to be a free child and admires her sister but also resents her for it, because Prue was the one who had to like um w- to let go of her childhood really. This is the same for Elijah, where he also chooses to prioritize what his younger brother needs and wants over what he needs and what he wants. And he is in the statement quite he does feel resentment over it. He feels anger over it. These are, by the way, like one of the consequences of playing a role and not embracing your authentic self. Now, to add a little bit more complexity, Vampire Diaries, of course, has vampires in the show. It's in the name, and Elijah is one of them. His entire family are the original vampires, OG vampires, the ones who created the other vampires that are in the show. This is important because when Elijah and his family were still human, before they became vampires, his younger brother, Niklaus, was abused physically and emotionally a lot by the father of the family, Michael, hence the name Michelson. And Elijah was a witness to a lot of violence and couldn't do anything about it, and was also afraid to do anything about it. So there's a lot of guilt and shame in that. But that's not the entirety of it all, because then what ended up happening is that when they became vampires, the family learned that Niklaus was not Michael's son, the father's son. And I mean, there's a lot of magic in this universe. I'm not going to do a whole expose of how it works. But basically, it turns out Niklaus, is also part werewolf. So the family ended up locking away this part of him. And once again, Elijah was there, and he was the one who helped shackle his brother, and ended up regretting it and feeling really, really sorry and guilty and ashamed about that. So let's sit with that a little bit, because unlike Prue, we've got now a layer of shame and guilt added onto it that was aggravated by the fact that they were immortal, so ended up living many, many years, like 1,000 years after that initial like betrayal. And that is something that, I mean, if you hadn't guessed, if you don't heal, or if you don't at least attempt and start the process, it's going to be infected and get worse over time. And it did. It really did in the show, for those who know. I am curious, has any one of you who watched the show ever come to the conclusion that the reason why Elijah is so self-contained and so um protective is also a way to punish himself for not standing up to his father and standing up for his brother when Niklas most needed it to, and then feeling shame thereafter for everything that Niklas would do that Elijah felt was immoral. Yeah, just how about what your thoughts are on that. Now let's get to the last character in our lineup of protectors, Elsa Scarlet from Fairy Tale. I'm going to take another tea break. So, for those of you who are familiar with Elsa, do tell me in the comments why you think she fits the bill of the protector, and how do you think it ended up impacting her negatively later on down the line. Whilst I was talking about Elijah, by the way, this is for you guys who are watching the replay. Someone did pop in into the live, so it was really funny because I was midway talking to Elijah. They had no context whatsoever to what I was doing, so yeah, hilarious. Anyways, let's get to Urza. So Urza is one of the more senior, high-ranking members of her guild and functions as a central figure within her close circle of friends. As a child, she was enslaved and lost people close to her before eventually finding a new home within the guild. She is disciplined and exacting. She holds herself and everyone around her to a high standard and rarely shows fear. Others in her guild see her as the big sister of the group, the one who keeps order, sets a standard, and is the first to step forward when things go wrong. And here's the quote for Urza. If I don't wear my armor, I won't feel secure. Now that is heavy. If you'd notice, I kind of not try to, I did choose the characters in terms of like how heavy we were going to get, and we're getting quite heavy now, especially with their backstories. So, Urza, clearly, someone who ended up becoming the protector, and actually, I'm going to add a little bit of context here. When she was enslaved, she was also tortured, and to free another prisoner that was being tortured, she ended up unlocking her magic and and heading the uprising of prisoners. She and the prisoners managed to like reverse the situation, and just as they were all about to get free, the evil bad villain intervened and ended up threatening the life of all of the prisoners. So Urza had to leave all of the prisoners behind, thinking that she had escaped by herself, and knowing that if she spoke a word about what happened, they would all die. So this is something that has been on her conscience ever since she was able to escape and when she came into the guild. Naturally, this is emotional baggage that makes it quite difficult to let other people in, not because she has experienced incredible violence and cruelty, but because she herself feels guilty about not being able to save all of the other prisoners. And that is something that has influenced how she ended up interacting with everyone in the guild. Now, if we go to her quote, "If I don't wear my armor, I won't feel secure." Again, a child who experienced neglect, actually more than neglect, this is like another extreme, and now doesn't know how to regulate properly, doesn't know how to be emotionally vulnerable, doesn't know how to be safe within herself either, and doesn't know how to let go of her guilt for and how to continue her life. So this is like basically everything. Do tell me what you think of like doing like character breakdowns like this for like characters that are like very not necessarily very similar but have a very important trait in common, and that is both their best quality but also their downfall, in the sense that it is keeping them from living their best life. Now let's talk about the rose. So we did end up having someone else pop in whilst I was in the middle of talking about Urza, but then they left again. So I'm going to do this with future audience watching this in the replay. We did say earlier that the roles we play can be ingrained because of positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. So either praise and recognition for something that we're doing, which leads to a certain extreme, or the absence of care that led to this extreme. What do you think are the thoughts that are running into the minds of the three characters we saw earlier? What are the thoughts that are running inside the minds of people displaying traits of the protector? And if you're someone who identifies with the protector, that is, someone who stands up for others but had no one do it for themselves, someone who wants to emotionally connect with others but don't know how, someone who wants to relax but doesn't know how to let go of control. What do you think are the limiting beliefs, the thoughts that are blocking you from moving forward with your life? Again, can be because of positive reinforcement as well as negative reinforcement. I'm gonna let you cook a little bit. Okay, let's start. For example, I'm only lovable when I am productive. If I stop being perfect, people will be disappointed. That's what I thought, by the way. My worth is in what I achieve. People need me to function. If I don't take care of it, no one will. I can only rely on myself. That also is something that I thought. Falling apart isn't an option. I don't deserve to rest. This is more so what Urza and Elijah think, by the way. If any of these resonate with you, you know why. And so I hope that talking about all of this was able to give you a little bit more perspective and explain to you how this came to be, or gave you more insight into how it came to be for yourself. Of course, once you are aware of the limiting belief, the whole point of this exercise is to be able to change it. And our change can sometimes happen really quickly, and it's really lucky when it does. Personally, for me, every time I did a breakthrough, such as what we're talking about today, it did not happen by luck. It happened by doing inner work, by confronting my shadows, by confronting parts of me I didn't like or didn't know were there. And it's something that I did with helps of others, but it's still a choice that I made. And while we do not choose the roles we grow into when we were a child, healing is still a choice we can all make now. And I will add that it is also a responsibility. We have a responsibility to ourselves and to other people to heal what needs to be healed, because people don't have to take the brunt of our wounds. It is our responsibility to get to them, to heal them. And there are many different ways you could do it. Of course, I'm going to talk about how I could help you do this. And so there are three ways you can work with me if you're interested in it. The first way, the mirror, is a way where you mostly advance by yourself and you do the work by yourself. I merely give you the tools and I give you some starting points, and then you just go from there. So, in the mirror, which is for those who are figuring out who they are and why they feel lost, for a sorry, I spoke too quickly. I offer a numerology report where I tell you b- about with the information you provide, which is the your date of birth. I tell you what the path of balance looks like for you, what the path of negativity of doing too little um, looks to you, and what the path of excess looks for you. I also tell you what are the job occupation domains that are going to bring luck and fortune. By that, I don't mean that you're going to be rich, but I do mean that you will find success in and more easily have financial um, uh, success as well. And also, if you have any intuitive abilities, I will be able to tell you. Of course, we're all intuitive in some regard, but some of us are more so than others. I'm part of that team, by the way. So if you are on the more intuitive side, I will be able to tell you this as well. In the mirror, I also offer journaling prompts with self-hypnosis recordings so that you can figure out your own blocks by listening to the recording yourself, your own sparks. So, what makes you feel alive? What is the direction that you're looking for? And last recording to heal the inner child, to kind of combine everything together and to help you in finding your way. Then I also have what I call Helm's Deep. You will find there is a little bit of a Lord of the Ring theming around what I do, which is for those who are ready to heal, whether they know what needs healing or not. So it's a big myth to need to know what is exactly wrong, what symptom, what problem. If you feel the need to come, we'll figure it out. Even if you don't know where it's coming from, that is like my job to help you figure that out. So we can do either RTT sessions, which is a hypnotherapy session where we go dive into your subconscious mind and find how the belief came to be, change it so that you can change your behavior as well. And you also have what I call the energetic reset, which is working with minerals and crystals to help you shift your energy. By energy, I do mean like the energetic field. So to change your level of consciousness, I'm not saying that you're going to go from like a here to here. It's like a slower type of process, but still, it's something that can be done, it will be done. And it ties in a lot of ancient traditions like Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, and shamanism. So using crystals and minerals to heal and help you shift your energy. The last one, Strider's Journey, is basically a program where all of the things I told you about just before are available at a discounted price. So this is for those who want to thoroughly transform into the person they've always known they could be. There are a couple of really fun and cool perks with Strider's Journey. Like, for example, if you do the program for more than 2 months, which is the minimum, and you extend it, there are possibilities to not transform, sorry, to transfer your program benefits to other people in your life. And also, there are other bonuses. But if you check out my website, you will be able to know what exactly. And of course, the best option is always to speak about it in person, so you can directly book a free discovery call with me. Naturally, I'm saying all this because this is my job and this is also what I am passionate about. I want to help people who need to release some emotional blocks, who want to shift their energetic field. And it's something that I've been able to do for myself, and it's something that I want to help others do as well. But you don't have to be working with me. I just hope that this workshop session was of use to you and that you learned something or that it made you feel something or realize something. That would be really awesome. So if it did change or shift or made you think about something, I would love it if you shared it in the comments. You don't have to go into the detail if you're not comfortable with it, but it would be really nice to know that, this is something that is useful that I did for you. Anyways, since I don't have anyone in the live chat with me, I'm going to end it here. I might just hang out a little bit live after this. I'm going to stop sharing though. And yeah, I've stopped sharing and now I'm back to like my screen. So maybe at the end of this, I'll have someone else pop in. I think I'll stick around until like it's 1 hour at the counter. But yeah. But honestly, I did get more comfortable throughout the life, so it's been really interesting. I think I got a mosquito bite somewhere over here. It's like super itchy. My tea has gone a little bit cold. It's not completely cold, but it's noticeably cooler. I nearly choked. You know what? I feel cold. I don't know if cold is the right word. I kind of like want to pull an oracle card to see if. Actually, I'm not going to use this deck. I'm going to use this deck actually. Since I'm talking about subconscious patterns and everything and the roles that we play, this like this. So from Irene to Coco. I have yet to pull any card from this deck. This is going to be the first time I use it. Oh, hello. I just finished doing the workshop, so I'm pulling an oracle card right now. You can stick around and see what ends up coming out. I'm using this deck. Oh, it's not the right side, sorry. I'm using this deck for the first time, so I'll see how it goes. I'm kind of curious, and there's someone watching, like, where are you watching from? I obviously live in France. I believe I've mentioned it before. Oh, They left already. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so what is the message that needs to be heard with this workshop? What is the message with this workshop? The card really does not want to come out. Sometimes it goes really quickly and sometimes like takes ages. By the way, for people who make it to the end until the Oracle card pull, well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Really, that's really great. Do like leave a comment so I know where you are. Okay, we've got one. Okay, so we've got a feather, plume, and it says don underneath it, which is gift. Okay, let's see what it means. I've got the leaflet over here. Okay, yeah, this is the page. I'm just going to translate it directly to you. Gift, like a gift offered by the bird, the feather symbolizes the gift, the link, the connection that unites all living beings with each other. For some, feathers are a sign of destiny when it finds its way. It is also protective and sometimes healing, like in the um, Native American culture that uses it nearly systematically in their rituals. It is also a gift to remind you to feel light, like a gift from the sky. It is offered to who finds it. I don't know if that last sentence made too much sense when I translated it, but I am honestly not sure if this card was about the workshop or if it is about me, because it does answer a couple of questions that I've been asking about myself, and I was like, yeah, I would love to have a conversation that I'm doing the right thing. I know I am, but it would be nice to have a sign. I mean, I have several signs, but I love having signs come to me regardless. Anyways, we're ending on this note, and I hope there was something that you could learn from this. And yeah, I'll see you next time for another workshop, hopefully where there will be some interactive elements to it. I think it is a lot more fun when there are some people. I might have picked the wrong date. Maybe you guys are not available at this day and time. So I'll think about this. Anyways, bye bye. Take care, everyone.